This is Trent and Jason from the Thunder Underground podcast, and we're going live here on YouTube recording a reaction and review of Avenged Sevenfold's brand new album called The Stage.
What do you think?
You want me to just jump right into it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to do it.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say reaction is a good word because to really review something, you have to listen to it a few times to be fair, I think.
Yeah.
And this thing is something you really have to hear a few times to be able to truly talk about, I think, because there's a shitload of stuff going on. And it's intriguing in a way from them because it's a concept album. And as far as I know, they haven't really done that before. And, you know, this kind of just came out of the blue. Like it leaked 2 days ago that it was going to be supposedly coming out today. And then I guess it came out today. And here we are. So the first song is The Stage. And had you listened to that previous to today or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I knew it was out, but I just hadn't got around to it. And then, well, you go ahead and then I'll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I listened to that a couple weeks ago when it first popped up as a single on Spotify. And I will say at first I think I was happy with it, like I am generally with the whole thing. But this song's like 8.5 minutes long, which I thought was unique to release as a single.
Yeah. But
the first half of that song, like the first 4.5 minutes, sound like Avenged Sevenfold from 2003. You know, like City of Evil or whatever year that was.
Definitely.
You know, like when they kind of hit the mainstream. And it's totally reminiscent of that, which is great because that's a great album. And then about the halfway point where it slows down, it turns into Guns N' Roses, like they normally tend to do, but which is not a bad thing. Whatever, you know, most of their slower stuff or their mid-tempo stuff, their solo-y stuff sounds like Guns N' Roses. But hey, that's not a bad thing. That's my favorite band, and they don't sound like a bad version, so you can't really slag them for that. And just like diving into the rest of the album, the second, third song, I was kind of like, oh, whatever, this is cool. And then all of a sudden that fourth song hits, goddamn, and goddamn, it's Metallica. But once again, I should have prefaced all this with saying I'm going to be pretty contradictory of myself because I like this, but then I keep ripping on them because it's just what I do. I have this love-hate kind of relationship with Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah. And
I don't want to ever fault them for, whatever the word is, not ripping off, but paying homage to Metallica or Guns N' Roses.
Derivative.
Yeah. Yeah, because especially that last album, they got a lot of people loved it and they got a lot of heat for it, because it sounded a lot like the Black Album. It sounded like Megadeth, like one of those songs sounded like Trust, Symphony of Destruction. Then you had stuff that sounds like Guns N' Roses. So whatever. So I think this album is a big step in a different direction because it's extremely, it's extremely broad and way past that. Because, I think I mentioned to you when I first listened to it, I got like, this is reminiscent of Dream Theater at times.
Yeah.
Not in, the sense of this is as great as Dream Theater, but it's reminiscent of ambition like Dream Theater.
Yeah. Well,
so before I keep rambling, you just jump in.
Well, I like what you said. At one point, you texted me and you said this is like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like James Hetfield and Slash were on a bus listening to Dream Theater or something. What was it you said exactly?
No, it's like if Metallica said to each other, hey, you remember that time we toured with Slash in 92 and we listened to a bunch of prog rock on the bus? Let's do that.
That's what it is. No. Which I think is a great, it's funny and that's great, but it's actually kind of that's pretty much it in a way. My thoughts, just first off, I'm going to say, I knew that there was a single out, but I hadn't really checked into it. I had no clue that the album was coming out. And I didn't know until our pal Katie Irizarry posted on Facebook, hey, they dropped their album overnight. And I really think, I really don't care what band this is. If you like them or you don't, that's just a very smart way to do things these days.
Yeah.
It is a super smart way, it's just badass. It makes you stand out and it kind of just puts you ahead of the curve a little bit.
And it generates way more news than if you said your album's come out 2 months ago.
Exactly. And I think that's just a great way to do things. But I mean, getting into this record, I liked it. It is a lot to take in. You're right. Just first listen, Paradigm sticks out. I really like Goddamn. Simulation is just crazy as fuck. Creating God was really something I dug, and I'll tell you something that I don't know. You may think I'm just nuts for this, but the chorus in Creating God just has a complete Faith No More feel. Like nothing in the voice or whatever, but just the melody just really, brings me to that Angel Dust, King for a Day, or not King for a Day, sorry, album of the year. Just that melody really, I don't know why. Maybe I'm crazy. It just really brought a Faith No More thing to my head.
I have to listen to it again, but I will tell you that song is my favorite song on the album.
That's great.
So that could be why.
Bam. There you go.
And I actually thought there were points in it where, he's singing a little different, where he's singing deeper.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of Axl Rose. And I don't want to keep bringing up Guns N' Roses, and I don't think he normally doesn't sound like Axl. The thing that reminds me of Guns N' Roses generally with them is the music.
Yeah.
And then so this I thought was a little different because it sounded like that stuff when Axl's not screaming,
Yeah. Well, and the thing, it's like I said earlier, derivative. I don't think there's anything wrong with being derivative. You can't not be that these days because everything's been done a million times over. And I don't fault these guys for that.
And the thing to point out is at least the bands they're, quote, derivative of are all great bands.
Yeah, they don't suck.
You know, they're not, ripping off Kings of Leon or something.
Yeah, exactly. Which would be bad because that sucks shit.
Right.
How did we get off on that? Anyways, that's your fault.
Yeah.
But, I just think this is a bold outing. I really like, I just really dig how you need a roadmap for this album. If I was in this band, I would need a fucking map. And and that's kind of what you want to do is you want to challenge yourself with everything you do. So, they're definitely doing that.
Yeah.
And, I get it. And that's great.
Yeah. When I first listened to it, I've only listened to this once through today, and I listened to a few more songs on my way home, and a second time. But at first listen, I was 3 or 4 songs in, I was kind of like, this is all right. This isn't bad. This isn't great. But as it went on, it just kept building, and I just kept thinking about it. And there's that middle part once it hits Creating God, and then Angels and Simulation. Those 3 songs in a row just completely pulled this thing together for me and made me think this is really fucking good. Yeah. And then, then we got to talk about the final song.
Oh man.
Without skipping anything else, but just before we forget, Exist is 15 minutes and 40 seconds, which, hey, Iron Maiden's released songs longer than that. And, Dream Theater has a ton of times, Iced Earth, whoever. But we keep mentioning Metallica, and they've never had a song that long. That's crazy for a band like this.
Yeah.
It's not crazy in general.
Yeah.
But when you think of Avenged Sevenfold, they're like one of the bigger heavy rock bands in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to be, outside of someone like Iron Maiden, for them to be releasing something that long, it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And
it is.
The cool thing about it is besides Creating God, it's my favorite song on this album.
That's great.
And maybe that's because he's singing less. I don't know. I don't want to say that. Because that's the other thing I wanted to point out is over the years I've gotten to where I don't dislike his voice, but it's just it always sounds like he's, straining or something. Yeah. I don't know. It just sounds like it's kind of, even though it's not a monotone voice, it's real derivative of itself.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So I like it when he sings clean or when he does something a little different.
Yeah.
And then, I really like Exist because there's just a lot of music going on, and it really shows off that, you can rip on, Metal Elitist or rip on this band for days just based off the way they looked or used to look.
Yeah.
And, whatever. But this song really to me proves something.
Well, what I like about this song, I like the speaking part at the end. I have to get that in.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, where he's talking about how it's amazing that people go to war over somebody else's idea of what God is.
Yeah.
Me being a fucking heathen. I love that. But that's beside the point, really.
But just to interject, when did you think you're going to hear Neil deGrasse Tyson on a radio rock band's?
Exactly, and that's what I'm getting at here is, the last album they put out, they got shit for, they sound just like this. Well, this one, they're taking risks. They're challenging themselves. They're doing longer songs. They're putting this and that in, and they've done that before. Little Piece of Heaven, was just fucking crazy. Dear God was like almost like a hair metal thing.
Yeah.
So they're not afraid to take turns, left turns, but they just took way more on this one. So I don't know that you can hold them to that, this is all Guns N' Roses and Metallica fire, because they're really putting their balls out here on this one, and I enjoyed it. Yeah,
there's obviously points throughout this thing where it sounds like those bands, but that's what they've become now. So that's going to come through.
Yep.
His guitar solos are always going to sound like Slash. There's always going to be some riffs or something that sound like Metallica. But like you said, it's really cool that this thing has expanded into something even bigger than that.
And this just, this adds more fuel to the headliner fire.
Yeah,
it really does. I mean, this is our headliner. When Iron Maiden hang it up and Metallica hang it up,
right.
This is one of the bands we're going to go to, and so it's good to see them, getting familiar with that and feeling those kind of oats, if you will.
Yeah, and this will probably, their last two albums have debuted at #1 on Billboard, so more than likely this will, I would assume.
I'm sure this will, yeah.
Just based off of the fact that you don't have to sell a ton of albums these days to debut at #1. But I would think this will land. And so with that point, I want to say it's about fucking time Brooks Wackerman is at the top of the Billboard charts.
That's right.
Bad for fucking good, y'all.
He's worked his ass off way too long. So this is a good thing for Brooks Wackerman, definitely.
Yeah. And that's cool. That's another thing to point out. The drums in this thing are precise as hell. It's like what the majority of people know from Brooks Wackerman is way more. Obviously the bands are not precise type bands. You don't think of Bad Religion or Bad for Good or whatever.
Yeah.
Who else was in Bad English?
Suicidal Tendencies.
I know. I just had to say another band with bad.
You wanted to get that in, didn't you?
Was he in Bad Brains? No,
oh my God. Really though, in a side note, music geek note thing for guys like us, it's really good to see a guy that has just mucked it out for 20 years. Bad for Good, Suicidal Tendencies, Bad Religion, now to really get pushed in the forefront. He deserves it. So that's another cool thing too.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Where does this land, as far as, say, a couple of years from now, you think, I want to listen to Avenged Sevenfold. Are you going to listen to one of the earlier albums that you love, or are you going to throw this in, you think? Or can you make that claim right now?
I don't know if I can make that claim. What I can really do is, because I love City of Evil, but there's moments on everything that I love. Yeah. I would probably make a playlist of my favorite few songs from each release.
So they're a playlist band for you?
Yes, they are. It's not just City of Evil.
Right.
I don't know if that's what you're getting at, and that's fine.
Well, no, I know that. My favorite song from them ever, I think, is Critical Acclaim.
Yeah, well, yeah, you always did love that song. So there you go.
Yeah.
It's broader than that, definitely.
But yeah, I don't ever sit around. I know you don't ever sit around thinking, I want to hear a 15+ minute long song. But I listen to that and I think this is the type of thing I go back and listen to, every once in a while.
Exactly.
Like I've done that with, what's the Iron Maiden song from the last album?
It's
The Walk in the Clouds.
Something about the clouds.
Yeah. I went back and listened to that a couple times. Same with Gettysburg from Iced Earth. I'll go back once every 2 years and
you don't skip through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is the same deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, any comparison they're getting to reaching out into that progressive metal, is deserved.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's ever going to put him on the level that they put Dream Theater or Queensryche or Sabotage or whoever is in that category.
Yeah.
But I think that's another thing I wanted to say that I forgot, was that there's nothing about this album that sounds like we're trying to reach our audience or we're trying to get on the radio or whatever you want to call it. Like, this album almost completely sounds like they just went in and made an album they wanted to make.
Exactly.
Which is always great from a band that big.
And if you don't like it, go get fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how you do music.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
Yeah. Well, you got anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think we covered it. I think this is pretty good, and you never know. I mean, this is the first day it was out, first time we've listened to it. I listened to it once all the way through, and then I went back over some main points.
Yeah.
Stuff might change, but I think this is a pretty good representation and reaction.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't heard our stuff before, go check us out. We're at thethunderunderground.com. We've got reviews and stuff up there, but we're also on soundcloud.com/thunder-underground, and we've got 90 plus podcasts up there now. And we've had on guys from bands like Avatar and Drowning Pool, Soil, The Sword, Crowbar, Overkill, Death Angel, Great White, Murder FM, Megadeth, The Obsessed, Warrant, Bullet Boys, Trickster. I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton. But
I don't know. I think you've covered it all.
Yeah, Scattered Hamlet.
Yeah, definitely.
Throw that in there. So anyway, go check all that out. Listen to our podcast. We've got other reaction videos up from the first two Metallica singles. And in coming this Monday, Halloween Day, October 31st, Metallica's releasing a third single from their album. And we'll have a reaction up for that.
We'll be talking about that for sure.
Yeah. So go subscribe to this YouTube channel at The Thunder Underground. Be looking for that. Be looking for other reaction videos. And we're actually going to do some old school album reviews. Reviews of albums that probably we love, but they're from the old days. So go be on the lookout for that. All right. Thanks for listening.